Great.
Yeah, for some refreshes and works better.
Hey, Doug,
right.
this is Matt Finn. Is my audio working?
Yes, we can hear you, Matt. It is
Excellent.
working.
Thank you.
All right, folks. We've got 32 members joined in. It's up, down to 31. We may have lost one, but let's get started here. I want to welcome you to the Equine Emergency Evacuation Orientation meeting tonight. We're also going to include a review of 2020. My name is Doug Terrio. I'm the Communications Director for EEE, and I'll be tonight's Zoom host. Just a few housekeeping items before we begin tonight's video session. If you can, please mute your microphone. That's the little microphone icon, bottom of your screen, perhaps. When it has a red line through it, your microphone would be muted. And this will help prevent inadvertent noise from impacting the presentation and causing a switch in the views from the active speaker to the active microphone. So we'd like to minimize that impact. So mute your microphones, please. And to assist in the best viewing of tonight's presentation, you may want to check the upper right-hand corner of your screen. There's an icon for gallery view or speaker view. Ideally, keep it in the speaker view. This will be an icon typically on the right-hand side corner of the screen. There'll be 4 little icons within it. Pick the smaller square or rectangle if you want to see the face of the person who's speaking. Or if you go to just the one with the little bar on it, that will be, you can see their name, but it'll minimize so you don't see the video of them. What this does is this presents to you the best real estate of your screen to view the presentation, so it won't be minimized or taking up real estate with a lot of people's videos on the other side. Tonight, please hold all questions that you may have until the end of the presentation. At that time, we'll open it up for a Q&A session. We'll make it a little interactive. If you do have any questions during tonight's presentation, you can use the chat box that's at the bottom of the screen. You can open up a chat window, write in your question, and address it to everyone. Don't address it to just a point person. What we're going to do is we'll collect all these questions at the end of the Q&A, and we'll then at that time ask you can open up your microphone and we can go interactive if we need to. Tonight's session is being recorded for the benefit of those who are unable to attend tonight's time slot, and it'll be, I believe, linked on the EEE members website. Tonight, I'd like to introduce the presenters who will be presenting to you tonight. Alan White, who's the chairman of the board of directors for the EEE. He's also our incident command liaison. Carol Fontana, who's the board of director member and the head of the EEE Evacuation. She's the lead for EEE Evacuation. John Hughes, the president of EEE, manager of staging, and myself, Doug Terrio, board of directors member and also the director of EEE Communications. So starting off, we'll go to Alan, our chairman of the board, for a few words. And if you give me a second, Alan, I will share my screen. And let's go to the first slide. There we go. So Alan, why don't you kick us off here, please? Did we lose Alan?
Okay, we're just testing the mute microphone button.
And it works perfectly.
Thank you, it worked great. Also on our board, Doug, I didn't see your name pop up, but Margaret Kearns is our treasurer and secretary. I don't know if she is joining us tonight or not, but
and my bad for not being complete. I just put the people's names for who are presenting, but by all means, Margaret
is there somewhere. Also, in terms
Linda.
of our directors at large, Linda Hess is our administrative whiz extraordinaire. Susie Herrick is our also a director at large, and I'm probably forgetting others, but anyhow, thank you, Doug. Alan White, as Doug said, I'm the chairman of the board of directors and have the luxury of the introductory slides tonight. Want to welcome in particular the new members who have not seen the orientation before, and also appreciate the returning experienced volunteers who have seen it before, and hopefully you'll learn some information tonight in terms of the stats and the update of how we've evolved over the last year and a half. So the objectives haven't changed much. What you'll hear tonight is information regarding our mission, who we are and what we do. We'll talk about how we fit into the county organization in terms of emergency management and emergency response. We'll go through a fairly clear organizational chart in order to find out the groups that you're part of and how that group relates to the other organizations within the overall team. And we'll thumbnail the process so that you have a clear understanding of how we execute. Our mission continues to be focused primarily on the animals, the equines of all flavors. Our purpose is to ensure the best possible outcome for those animals. That outcome will be affected in many cases by their exposure to fire, wildland fires, seasonal floods, in some cases to vehicle accidents or trailer accidents. We'll talk about that in our technical rescue side, and also animals affected by those who suffer from the COVID-19, whether that's transportation or on-site care and feeding. So disasters in many different flavors. Guiding principles. Hopefully this is clear. We want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. So we intend to add value and never subtract it. We had the luxury of borrowing liberally from organizations that had many years of experience. In particular, there's several organizations in California that shared their experiences with us, and we built upon that. Of course, we have to adopt and change that in order to fit that requirement into the Yavapai County experience here in Arizona, recognizing that Arizona and California are substantially different environments. Key for us is managing risks and therefore minimizing liability. We'll talk more about that. You'll see some new effort placed in that area in terms of new positions. We recognize that we have to be flexible and adaptable and conform to the dynamics within our county organization. Our processes have evolved and probably will continue to evolve. And last and never least, safety is our job number one. Everything we have to do has to be safe for the people, for your teammates, and of course, for the animals that we serve. So the big picture, the world in which we operate is enabled by the Federal Emergency Management Association and FEMA, along with a variety of other 3-letter and 4-letter acronyms, is really our cornerstone, our foundation stone. We, of course, are applying that to the world of YCSO, which is law enforcement. Implicitly, that includes people at the local level, other police departments, but our primary liaison will be with the county sheriff's team. They're important to us in terms of gaining access to evacuated and disaster-defined areas. Emergency management is another county function. They're the ones who run the Code Red system. They have several teams of people focused on emergencies in a variety of manner. And then to the far right, the 911 system, which is a new evolution for us, is the means by which most people report issues, identify personal emergencies, and seek help. So from all three of those sources, we get direction and or requirements or specific needs. Very important because that really covers the first response entities across Yavapai County. Ironically, we have a new sheriff. Everybody might be familiar with David Rhodes. We have a new emergency management head, R.C. Hilton. The COAD is a team you haven't heard about, but it's a community organization active in disasters, things such as the Red Cross, such as the Salvation Army and so forth. And there's a chairperson that organizes the collection of COADs that provide services to Yavapai County. And as I said before, we're expanding our focus to include the world of COAD and being sensitive to that in terms of how we respond and the PPE that we have available so that we're keeping ourselves safe. Technical rescue is a term used to define assistance for those animals affected by accidents, those affected by vehicle trailer accidents, and that sort of thing. So we'll have more conversation about that as we dig into the details. And with that, I will hand the microphone back over to Carol Fontana, Vice President, Board of Directors, and the driving force behind all of the evacuation processes, staging areas, and so forth. Some are fond of calling her our Joan of Arc, as she attracts interest from people around the county. So over to you, Carol.
Thank you, Alan. I hope I don't have Joan of Arc's ending, that's for sure. Hi, folks. Thank you for coming. We have a huge county with 7,000 plus equines, and that's excluding cattle, and a third of them do not have any transport. So our first step in this process was, how can we help? How do we tackle this big challenge? We wanted to find out first what the exact need is. So we started by taking this pretty detailed survey of the large animal populations, and we put them on this map to show you guys where they live. Then we superimposed the fire risk to show the fire danger, red areas being the most risk, orange, yellow, and so forth. As you can see, a lot of our animals live where it looks pretty darn red. Then you see those brown splotches. Those are the wildfires 2002 to 2018, which doesn't include the last couple of years, Cellar Fire, Sheridan Fire, Cordis, Pig, Horse, Sour Fires. So we estimate maybe about 42,000 acres have burned in the last 2 years, which means that 12 to 13% of our county has burned in the last 18 years, which is pretty amazing when you put it all together. But it's not just wildfires that we're worried about. Those of you from Verde Valley are very familiar with this photo taken of the Verde Valley flood just 2 years ago, February. So you also know what the local owners tell us, that the water comes up super quick, and believe it or not, they say it happens usually in the middle of the night. One horse owner told me it was completely dry, and 45 minutes later, when they were trying to get their horses out, the water was up to their thighs. Thank you, Doug. Here's the map of the Verde River. Unlike most wildfire events, there is little or no warning of the flood, and there are about 230 animals living in the flood basin. The good news is that in most cases, the animals really don't have to be moved far to get out of danger, usually just up to the barn or higher ground. So the question is, how do you know when you have to move them? Well, there are USGS stream gauges all along the Verde and its contributaries, and you can easily download this gauge data to automatically go to your cell phones. You actually may know about this, but a lot of people don't. Thanks, Doug. Therefore, EEE is going to conduct a Zoom meeting next week for owners who have animals living there. At the meeting, we'll give you information on how to set it up, your own cell phone, and get this data from the flood gauges. It's really super easy, and it's a great system for warning you. Truthfully, this will be about a 20-minute meeting because it's very simple to do. You know, I know one owner whose horses live right along the Verde, and he set up this system a couple of years ago and said it was an absolute godsend. When he got the information on his cell that the gauges were getting a little high, he moved his horses up next to his house. And when that 5-6 feet of water went right through his pasture, a couple hours later, his horses were safe. I encourage everybody here, please, if you know anybody in the Verde, spread the word, contact me with any questions you have. The Zoom meeting will be, as it says, February 2nd, that's next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. And we'll be good to go. We'll take about 20 minutes to get this information to you. Thank you, Doug. So what's changed? Well, we had to cancel about 8 of our presentations last spring, but we'll be rescheduling as soon as it's safe. Our chief admin, Linda Hess, and I really enjoy going out and meeting fellow horse people who, like many of them, like ourselves, basically grew up on the back of a horse. So we'll be sharing thoughts at these meetings on how to prepare for evacuation and understand in each situation how best EEE can help people. Alan mentioned the tech rescue, and now we have that capability. First, let me kind of briefly explain what that is. When your horse is down for whatever reason and it can't get up, it's in a ditch, down a ravine on a trail, or maybe even just like cast in a stall, EEE now has the ability to help. We are going to be purchasing specialized equipment for this in the next couple of weeks. And 4 of our EVAC volunteers have taken this 3-day tech rescue course. That's our team in the photo. And down on the right-hand, bottom right of the photo are our teachers, who are nationally renowned instructors, Chief John and Deb Fox. John and Deb are coming up to Prescott this spring to do another training, which is great. And I encourage anybody who's interested, just please let me know. It's a great asset. Okay, so far we've talked about emergency organization and our challenges. And now John will talk about how EEE is organized and conducts its missions.
Thank you, Carol. So we've talked about the universe we operate in, and we've talked about the environment we operate in. Let's figure out the pieces of the puzzle that we engage in as EEE. So there's the pre-evac segment, and some of our missions originate before an evacuation is actually declared by the sheriff or emergency management. And during the pre-evac period, EEE can get a request at any time during the year, any time during the day or night, not just for fire or flood. It could be the tech rescue requirement. It could be a request for emergency transport. We, during the pre-evac stage, basically have free reign. We can trot all over the county to do our missions. We do advise emergency management what we're up to, but at that point, we're under no official constraints. When there's no evacuation or roadblocks in place, sometimes roadblocks are in before there's an evacuation, most of those missions are going to be what we call taxi missions. And that's where we relocate an animal from one address to another. So an owner's in distress and say, I got to get my animal out of here for whatever reason, I can't take care of it. And we say, what address is it? And we contact the receiver. And if it's all good, we will taxi them over, whether there's an evacuation or a crisis or anything. And it could also be an emergency transport situation. And that's where there's an overturned trailer and the horse is not necessarily hurt, but he can't get out. And so we will go do those as well. And then finally, it could also be the technical rescue, where we have the specialized equipment and the specialized training to get them out of danger where they're likely to die. So EEE can establish a staging area before an evacuation is called. If we do have to inform emergency management, but if we get a number of calls from a particular area and there's yet no evacuation, we can say we've got business to do there. The owners out there must know something that the officials don't, and we can go for it on our own. If an evacuation is declared and it's a major incident, we will definitely open a staging area. It may be fully staffed or partially staffed. As Alan said at the beginning, one of our principles is flexibility. And we have constructed this group to be as flexible as possible. We have no real estate. We have no fixed plant and equipment. We intentionally are as flexible as possible, given the notion that when there is a major incident or a small incident or a single animal incident, we need to be flexible enough to deal with it. And one of the things that is often overlooked is post-evacuation. And this might not be the glamorous part, but when the evacuation is over, we have to be able to return the animals to their owners. And the way we do this is we maintain a chain of responsibility. We record the handoffs of the animals to each element of our operation. There have been many incidents with our friends to the west, not here, where animals have been lost, abandoned, or even stolen, unfortunately. But we carefully track and sign off, starting with the owner or starting with the person who has recognized that the animal needs evacuation. And we sign off at every level, and this substantially reduces the risk. And our friends to the west have learned this, and we have profited from their experience. So those are the three elements of an incident that we do. The last thing I want to mention is the most uninteresting thing of all. I see at the bottom. We want to leave a staging area at least as clean and perhaps better as it was when we got there. These staging areas are granted to us generously with no cost, handshake agreements, and we want to be very good citizens and keep the owners of these typically very nice properties. We want them to continue to be on our side. So that is that. Now we move on to a flow chart, but don't worry, this one's not too painful. All of our missions start with a call in, as Alan said, either from the EEE hotline 911 or a first responder. Last year, we received requests directly from the sheriff and from emergency management. That is a real vote of confidence. We're happy to take their calls. So dispatch records the basic information and contacts evacuation management, evac management. The first thing they do is decide if EEE should accept the mission. There are reasons why we may not. And if we don't, evac will contact the owner and explain to them why we can't do it. A typical case would be, I'm lazy, I don't want to spend any money, and I want to see if I can get a free ride. But we don't want to do that part. So evac management then decides on the appropriate team for a mission. Now, to be based on the experience and skill sets needed. Some missions are pretty fundamental. Go get a nice old horse, put it in the trailer and take it where you want it. If it's a virtual mission, which means volunteers are at home, the closeness of the volunteers to the location of the horses can be an important factor. And pretty obviously, if there's a mission in Mayer, we probably are, it's not my job, but Carol's job to decide that they probably won't select a team from Williamson Valley. PV is probably more likely. So we do have a good dispersion of evac teams around the county. So we have some flexibility there. So once evac management has organized the team, decided that we want to do the mission, got the right people, they contact comms management. And this is the big, big change that we've been working on and is so impressive. Comms management will start the tracking of the mission. EVAC and comms will also determine if a pilot vehicle is needed, given the complexity of the mission. But comms itself will do the tracking. It will not be initiated by the rig out in the field. The comms people, and you're going to hear a lot more about it, are going to track them. They're not even going to be able to belch without comms knowing it. So for maximum safety, no rig is wandering about untracked. Comms tracks the rigs all the way through to the completion of the mission. So that is how it works. It's pretty simple, whether it's virtual or staging, or whether it is evacuation, technical rescue, emergency transport. It's this simple. And we have streamlined it over the course of the past year. We've streamlined the documents, we've streamlined the processes. And having said that, I'll now pass the baton to Carol, the EVAC lead, and she will tell you how they do it.
Thanks, John. Well, we all know, all of us know that large animal evacuation can be one of the most complicated evacuations there is. And speaking for myself and my code lead, Robin Reiner, who I think is on the call, we are real lucky to have highly skilled horse trainers, veterinarians, and handlers on our EVAC team, and I thank you all. The EVAC lead, either me or Robin, as John said, will assign the EVAC teams for the missions. And if the EVAC team goes behind the roadblock, then the EVAC lead will be calling the EEE IC liaison, which is Alan White, whom you've met, to get approvals from the Sheriff Incident Command to go across that roadblock. And those requests will be address specific, so we're not just wandering around in there. If you're an evacuator, the EVAC lead, I got to tell you guys, is there to help you through the mission. If you need more resources brought in, if you can't catch an animal, you see loose horses on the road, the EVAC lead is there to help you. Thank you, Doug. So let's talk a little bit about the EVAC team itself. It consists of a driver and a co-pilot of the rig, and if needed, as Doug said, a pilot vehicle. A pilot vehicle is really a nice to have because it goes ahead of the rig to make sure the rig can get through and turn around, which is a nice thing. So let's talk a little bit about the rig crew. The driver and the co-pilot are the skilled horse people, and they're the ones, maybe other than the owners, who will handle those horses. Other than doing that, the driver's main function is driving. And the co-pilot basically does all the rest, calls the owner en route, takes the photos of the animals, fills out all the forms. There are waivers to be signed, chain of custody to be recorded, and so on. So you can see it does involve a little more paperwork for the co-pilot. Thanks, Doug. Well, co-pilots, don't despair. Everything you need, all the forms, waivers, logs, everything is in this little binder on your left, and that will keep it neat and in one place. But the real helpmate is the form that you see on the right. This is our EVAC at a glance, and it's basically a laminated cheat sheet. All you have to do is use a little marker right there, check off every step of the EVAC process. It makes it really, really easy. And of course, we'll go into more detail with our EVAC training February 23rd. Thanks, Doug. Every role is essential. That's true. EVAC is considered the most critical function of EEE. In all other groups, including EVAC leads, we are there to support EVAC. That is our collective goal. And we've made vast improvements just in this last year to make EVAC much easier and safer. And I'd say those improvements mainly involve staging, which is our temporary holding place for animals, and in communications. We actually have a new function at staging. So let's start with that. Great. The new function is the horse management, headed by the horse manager. We created this role about 6 months ago to help evacuators and to keep track of animals coming in and going out of staging. The horse management acts as like a buffer for the county shelter. We can hold animals at staging until either the shelter or somewhere else can take them. So evacuators, when you arrive at staging and unload your animals, The horse management is there to help you unload the hay and everything else you brought in with the animals, including that paperwork. They'll take it and file it. Plus, they'll help clean the trailer and get you back on the road again, which is pretty nice. Also, you can call the horse manager when you're a few minutes out from staging, just to tell them you're on the way, or actually maybe to tell them about that fractious kicker you have in the back with the red ribbon in his tail. Maybe at that point, you'd like maybe like a little help getting that horse out. The horse management can help. It's a very, very important function. We've got 3 very skilled horse managers, Sue Cousins, Trish Demure, and Barbara Rinke. The other huge improvement is with communications. You can see the bullet points. They're basically 3 points of contact. The first one is keeping in contact with the owner. We talked about that. That's co-pilots doing that. The second one is rig to pilot vehicle, if we have a pilot vehicle, and Doug will talk about that. The third bullet point is where the most exciting change is to evacuators. Evacuators, remember how you had to keep texting and calling into comms during training? Well, as John said, we don't have to do that anymore. We can just concentrate on the job at hand, getting animals out safely, and communications will keep track of you. That's a very, very exciting development. So now we'll hear more from the guy who made all that happen, and he will explain the comms process in more detail. Here's Doug Theriault, our comms lead.
All right, thank you, Carol. Well, the comms group we set up some goals here. All right, set up some goals for the team. We want to provide as much professional communications to all who call upon the EEE for assistance. And we want to do that in a way that we maintain an efficient, high quality communications for all our field personnel. Accuracy is key to make sure that our communication is efficient and effective. We want to be clear and readable in everything we do, from the speech we make over the phones to the text we write on our RFA forms. At the same time, we want to utilize all available communication paths that we can. We want to leverage technology, but only if it helps us reach the EEE goals. We don't want to use technology just for technology's sake. We want to make sure, as Alan said right from the get-go, that we're part of the solution. We're not adding to the problems. Communications team represents a variety of functions. We have dispatchers, the people who are receiving those incoming requests from animal owners, agents, or the 911 dispatch centers. They originate a form called the Request for Assistance form. The logistics, we've got a brand new communications command center trailer. It hasn't come in yet. Hopefully it'll be here very soon, Q1 of 2021. That's going to contain all the equipment we need to deploy at a staging area, as well as all our comms gear, antennas, radios, that we'll have all stored within that one point in that one trailer. Pilots, you've heard Carol talk about them. These are ham radio operators that have that'll lead the vehicles, the rigs, the trailer rigs, and who'll be able to communicate back to the command center via a long distance radio link. They'll also be able to communicate with the rigs themselves through handheld radios that we'll assign to the various teams on mission. And the purpose of the pilot is really to let them know the road conditions or obstacles that may impede the travel of the rig. And they really provide a long distance communications link that's above and beyond what the cellular network has today. In a lot major events, such as a fire, we could lose cellular communications. Our radio links on mountaintops across the area are going to provide that long distance communication should the cellular be out. And you'll also find that it's going to be faster to communicate via radio than it is dialing phones. With that, the communications team has the big responsibility of mission tracking. We're going to keep logs of progress of each and every resource that's out in the field. We're going to be doing this via radio, via cellular phones, but we're going to call you at a periodic interval, probably no more than 30-minute interval, to find out how you're doing, if there's been any problems on the road, and basically this is for safety reasons. We want to make sure that everything is going smoothly in yours. In addition, we'll be able to generate some estimates for the evac team to help with scheduling and resource scheduling. The manager of the comms team is going to be the primary interface to other teams, and we're also going to provide situational awareness for the EEE groups, everyone, and that's in regards to weather. We want to know if we've got a lightning storm coming in during fire seasons. That could happen. We also want to get smoke reports. We want to look at any new roads that might be blocked. So we'll be monitoring local authorities and making sure that if there's any updates that we need to provide to EEE, we can do that. We're also going to have a good cellular Wi-Fi network available to do all our work within the staging area. Our capabilities, we tested this out last September. I gave a demonstration with several of the pilots and the comms team hams. We set this up over at a field station with our RV, but we've got strong capabilities now. We've got an 800 number for our incoming requests for assistance. 911 has been given that hotline number, and that's be able to ladder through all our dispatchers so that nobody calling in for an assistance is waiting on the line or it doesn't go to a voicemail. It's going to be handled by an operator. We're going to have cellular and Wi-Fi network, so for reliable phone calls, for internet access, emails, and SMS in our location at staging. We're going to have a big radio system. You can see some of the boxes here on the picture. You'll see some radio gear in there. Lots of handheld radios, battery charging facilities for your phones and tablets. And then we'll be providing regular updates on mission progress, both in a board that's going to be outside the command center as well as an electronic means. But we're going to maintain a master mission tracking log that's going to let everybody know where we are in the field at any one period of time. We're also going to maintain that hotline call ladder so the dispatchers are not overworked when we're in a big major emergency. This could be for several days, but we'll have to adjust the list on who's receiving calls to make sure it's well balanced. The dispatchers are the first voice of the EEE. They're the ones that are handling those calls coming from the EEE hotline. You determine the request type, whether it's a technical evacuation, technical rescue, or evac request, and also whether or not the call is urgent. If they've been ordered to evacuate, that's an urgent request, you'll be writing that on the form, and that's going to prioritize the mission to make sure that those are done at the highest priority. Dispatchers are great. They can operate, since we're using their cellular phones, to be operating potentially from home during many of the events. They can or cannot, they do not need to be at a staging area to fulfill their duties. But again, cellular phones are going to be used heavily for all your recording of your data, and we're going to have some headsets for you to ease you on the cell phone. The pilots are, again, ham radio operators working a long distance communication network. And this is really a reliable comm link when you're outside of cell phone range. You may be traveling in an area where cell service is sketchy at best, or your provider isn't covered in that particular area. Well, the pilot can 100% of the time hit back to comm center and communicate via the radio. They have, some of these pilots have tracking software on their radios that allow us to know within a certain few minutes exactly where their GPS location is. And they'll be operating potentially within the rig, the evac themselves, or as a separate vehicle leading them to let them know if there's any obstacles along their way. But that mission tracking is really a big feature of comms. It's our core function that we want to do to make sure we know exactly where all our resources in the field are at any one period of time. Safety is key for that. We want to know if the rig has trouble, if you've got flat tires or an animal that's distressed, or you're having difficulty loading, unloading, and you need more resources. You can get comms link back to EEE Command Center extremely fast by using the radio links or via the cell phone links. So the last but not least here is logistics. With this new trailer, it's going to store all sorts of equipment for the deployment at staging, above and beyond just the electronics. There's lots of hay and muck buckets and rakes and all sorts of stuff. But logistics is going to be responsible for all that equipment and checking in and checking out of gear on there. We're going to need some help also from the comms team for setting up the radio station and so around the trailer, but we'll be totally capable for many day of operation with power and networking and links and all that. So with that, we'll pass it back to John.
Okay, thanks, Doug. And just before I start, our group is in a umbrella organization, mainly of California evac groups, and we're the baby of the bunch. But when I have told them about what we're doing on comms, they are flat out envious. We are miles ahead of what they only can aspire to at this point. So it's not all in place yet, but it's getting there, and it's really going to be something. So guess what? Here it is, the dreaded organization chart. Let's put it all together. Up at the top, we've got the three main groups: evac management, comms management, which you've heard about. Now you're going to hear a very brief bit on staging management. And then you see incident command liaison, which is where we get the permissions from the sheriff to go across the roadblocks. So staging area management, as you would expect, we're the housekeepers and the order maintainers and the maids and the orderlies, and we do all that stuff that's not very glamorous. But if we don't do it, evac and comms won't be successful. So we're happy to do it. Each staging area and each individual mission on the road will have a designated safety officer. Each of them have the authority to halt operations if there's an issue. And just a quick example, you saw when Carol put up that picture that had the little BBC logo down in the left corner. So that's international news. Big fire disasters are not just local news, they're not just state news or national, they're international news. And in this particular case, we knew Frank Whiteley from the San Diego evac group, who was sent into that particular mission to rescue 35 horses. And they were driving a convoy down the road through an alley of big mature eucalyptus trees. The embers came and set those babies off. They were like Roman candles. They all wanted to save the horses, and Frank said, "We're turning around." And it's, in retrospect, a really good thing that he did, but the point is made, we just don't take chances. Now, you see underneath safety, it says security. For multi-day incidents, we will have 24/7 security in place, so we don't fool around. Traffic and layout, that sounds pretty boring, but it's actually vital. There will be a lot of vehicles at a staging area. You must follow the signboard instructions and the directions of the traffic controllers. There will be an entrance and an exit to the staging area. There'll be a traffic controller each one. You gotta do what they say, because you gotta park where you're designated. There are reasons for all this. And with our friends in California, there have actually been vehicle accidents in staging areas, and we don't want to do that. So most importantly, I think in the staging area is the volunteer coordinator. Susie Herrick is our volunteer coordinator, and she and her team check in everybody as they come into the staging area. Excuse me, you must park, and the first step is to go there and sign in. It's not just because we want to know you're there. It's because the sheriff and emergency management need to know who the emergency worker classified volunteers are. Temporary day volunteers and animal owners will also check in, and they'll be given wristbands. Nobody wanders around and pets the ponies and all that stuff. We will permit the owners in because frankly, they know their animals the best. But we don't want them to stay. So having said all that about staging, if you are going to the staging area, either as an evacuator, comms, or staging personnel, here's a useful tip. Bring a folding chair with you because it's a lot like the military. It's a lot of hurry up and wait. So I leave you with that. So that I hope that organization chart wasn't too painful. If there are questions, address them to Doug. But now let's do a little bit of rah-rah. Patting on the back. All the volunteers who've been around can pat themselves on the back, and let's take a moment and see what we have accomplished in just the last year and a quick peek at what's coming up. At the start of 2020, we had 30 volunteers. We have 82 volunteers now who've been through a variety of trainings. We now have 26 staging areas. Beginning of January 2020, we had 0. The enhanced mobility really means the trailer that Doug is talking about. When we have that thing modified, wired up, and able to put all of our stuff in, we're going to be able to set up so much quicker and so much more efficiently than we've ever done with any drill we've ever done. So we're expecting that to be delivered in February. Susie Herrick has promised on a stack of Bibles that this will happen. And at some point you should buy her a glass of wine and she will tell you how we came to get this incredible trailer at an incredible price. So successful fundraising, that's a bit of an understatement. We had the Saving Them Safely campaign with a goal of $10,000. We exceeded that by more than 3,000. And I think Doug has already got it committed for all of his fancy stuff. So it's good that we did exceed the goal. Thank you to everyone who participated. And then if you saw the article in the Courier about our tech rescue mission in November, that netted another $1,200 of specialized dedicated donations for technical rescue equipment. We're happy to have that. And we will be getting 2 full kits of tech rescue gear here in the first quarter. How we pay for it, we're keeping our fingers crossed that somebody else pays for it, but it's going to happen. Now, our outreach has resulted in a group of really top level sponsors, particularly for animal oriented groups like ours. Prescott Animal Hospital, Large Animal, Humane Society, and Olson's Feed and Grain are all sponsors, along with the Findlay Auto Group. And it turns out that Findlay is very big on animal projects and all, and we were delighted that they would join us. And we are particularly proud to have the support of the James Family Foundation. And if you have been around this town at all, you know they're one of the biggest of the big dogs in this kennel. And getting them on our side is quite a coup. We've also brought our governance structure up to best practices to conform to bylaws and frankly, to recognize our change as more than a simple organization. We're in the big boys now. We're playing with the sheriff and the emergency management. And, so our organization now reflects that level of sophistication. We split the chairman and president function, and our treasurer, Margaret Kearns, who's actually not here tonight, but she has been very helpful in organizing this presentation. The treasurer, she now has a separate bookkeeper outside of the organization, and she's very pleased about that. I don't blame her. Finally, EEE is an active member of the COAD here in the county, and Alan alluded to it. When we first joined it, we sort of sat there and nodded our heads during the meetings and tried to pretend that they wouldn't call on us. But this year we delivered PP&Es to some of the more remote places in the county. Very remote, very interesting, but we did it. So what's coming up? No, we're not going to sit on our hands because it's winter. In the first quarter of 2021, we're going to focus on training, pretty obviously. All volunteers, if you're a registered volunteer, you should have received the training schedule for the first quarter by email this week. And if you haven't, let Linda Hess, the admin, know, don't tell me. And mark your calendars for the dates for your groups. All of the sessions are going to be Zoom based. Please attend the sessions for your particular group. And any registered volunteer can feel free to sit in on the other group sessions to familiarize. And the big excitement for first quarter is uniforms. My preference, which I have spoken about, would be for a nice floor length leather coat, perhaps in black, with a red sash and gold epaulettes. I'm not sure that I'm going to prevail with that desire. We'll probably end up with a vest or a shirt. But if you have an opinion on uniforms, and I know you do, please talk to your board member or your lead and put your opinion in. Now, outreach is ongoing, and already in January, we have new possibilities. We're looking at a tech relationship with Embry-Riddle. We have some possible new sources of funding, and we're building links in the Verde Valley, as you know. We're also considering participation in such things as the July Rodeo Parade and Equifest. And Susie Herrick already has a banner for us to march with, so I guess we have to do it. All of this will culminate, we hope, in outdoor drills, COVID willing. And we will want to do some full-scale staging area drills. And the culmination of all of that would be what I'm calling, my secret code word, don't tell anybody, I'm calling it the circus. And the circus would be a staging area drill with demonstrations, and we would have local dignitaries, we would have first responder management. The courier wants to come cover it, and we've already had positive responses in terms of, yes, we would like to do it, from some fairly significant people in the county. So we're going to have a very busy first quarter and into the second quarter, and that's basically it. So now I'm going to turn it back to Alan, who's going to underscore his passion of the day and open it up to Q&A. Alan, over to you. Oh, I missed an entire slide. Well, Alan, give me one quick minute. You all know that we have a website and a Facebook page, and we have the volunteer portal. It contains all of the new forms, logs, questionnaires that have just been updated and just placed on the website this week. Linda Hess, Carol Fontana led that charge. And if you need any documents, you can download them. If you need any updates on the various quarterly results, that they are there. You know that the password is Horse Safety 101, all one big word. So there, how did that slide sneak in there? That must have been Professor Pony. Okay, Alan, it's all yours. You're muted.
Did we lose Alan?
Hey, Alan, you're muted. Uh-oh.
That never happens in real life, but on systems, it always happens. Thank you, John. So this is the last slide. And let me preface it by saying, for those that are new, and especially those that have been around a while, I think it's incredibly clear we are not Cowboy 911. We have substantial organization, we have structure, we have operating procedures, we have as a result of that, very strong credibility outside of our organization. And for that, we should be all feeling very proud. I certainly appreciate all the effort that has gone into this. Clearly, we have to continue to meet our commitments, achieve our response times, and to deliver trained, skilled, competent people to any incident through which we're engaged. But primarily, and said 3 different ways, safety is our primary responsibility. Every individual is responsible for themselves. We all have to be looking after each other. Everybody has to have each other's back and be aware. And of course, lastly, our purpose is to ensure the safety of animals that we're serving. So those are 3 different aspects of safety. It is and will continue to be a primary issue for us. A couple of references to a safety officer position, which has some overarching responsibility to ensure that we are conforming to the best practices that we've established. So hopefully that was useful for everyone. We wanted to share the update part for the old folks, the overview orientation part for the new folks. I thank you for your time and attention. We kept it just under an hour, which was our goal. And hopefully that had a good flow. My desire is that there are questions, because for those of us that have been doing this for a year and a half, everything is familiar, all the acronyms are familiar, the language and so forth. If this is your first time through, I'm sure that there are questions and clarifications to be had. So Doug, did we capture any on the chat room?